Which one of my enemies is it this time? Johnny Sorrow? The Phantom of the Fair? Or is Dr. Death back for more?
In the Dream Lord's palace, Rose questions Morpheus and Lucian about her brother's location. However, neither know where he is. Intrigued by Rose's ability to invade his palace in the dreaming, Morpheus tells the Vortex about her power and helps conjure a plan to find Jed. He explains as the Vortex, Rose can easily travel into the dreams of anyone she chooses, and suggests they use that ability to find her brother. Morpheus theorizes the nightmare 𝐒𝐤𝐤𝐬 may have created and hidden Jed in an alternate dream dimension. As such, Rose is the only one who can find him. Morpheus offers to teach the Vortex a technique to find her brother, and the duo agrees to try it later that night. Despite coming up with a foolproof plan, the Dream Lord urges her to keep searching for Jed in the human realm, and assigns Matthew to watch over her while she does so. After their conversation, Rose wakes up and continues her search for Jed. She prints multiple flyers and recruits her housemates to help spread the word around town. She then heads out with Hal as the duo shares and pastes the flyers around the neighborhood. While they circulate the news, Lyda revisits the foster agency and meets Miss Rubio. Worried about Jed's safety, Lyda pleads with the social worker to conduct a wellness check. Miss Rubio assures her that he's safe, but still agrees to check on him to clear any doubts. Meanwhile, over at Jed's foster home, his foster father Barnaby locks him in a cellar as a punishment for his escape attempt. Jed's foster mom Clarice moves to help him, but a stern Barnaby forbids it. Later that afternoon, the couple receives a call from Miss Rubio, informing them of her upcoming visit. Learning this, Barnaby summons Jed and tells him about the wellness check. The abusive foster father orders him not to disclose any of his abuse and threatens to return him to the cellar and break every bone in his body if he disobeys. Scared, Jed agrees to keep quiet, but resolves to secretly pass a message to the social worker. While exiting the room, the resourceful orphan grabs a piece of paper and a pen to write a secret note. About an hour later, Miss Rubio arrives and meets with the family. Constantly watched by Barnaby, a frightened Jed struggles to find an opportunity to slip the note. However, the smart boy finds a way around this and hugs the social worker before she leaves. While in her embrace, he coyly slips the note containing a "help me" message into her bag. After Miss Rubio leaves, Barnaby calls Jed and surprisingly pulls out his secret note, revealing he had figured out his plan and retrieved the distress message. Jed frantically apologizes for disobeying him, but a cruel Barnaby locks him in the cellar. Elsewhere, the Corinthian learns Rose hasn't returned to her New Jersey apartment for weeks and heads out to look for her. He follows her trail and ends up meeting her great-grandmother in London. Oblivious to his terrible intentions, Unity tells the Corinthian about Rose's travels to Florida. Learning this, the nightmare pursues the dream vortex and eventually finds her sharing flyers with Hal in the park. As he moves toward her, the Corinthian spots her talking to Matthew and instantly realizes Morpheus sent the Raven to watch over her. Scared of being spotted, the Corinthian leaves Rose and gets a flyer from Hal instead. Reading the poster, he learns the dream vortex is searching for her brother and decides to find him before she does. He visits the foster agency and kills Miss Rubio, gouging out her eyes and munching on them while he reads Jed's files. Later that night, Rose returns home after a long day of sharing flyers and falls asleep as she re-enters the dreaming realm. There, she discovers Morpheus was telling the truth about her ability to travel through dreams as she enters her flatmate's nightmares and fantasies. While navigating through the different realms, Rose spots Lyda making out with her deceased husband and quickly exits the scene. She eventually locates Morpheus, and with the Dream Lord's guidance, finds Jed in his dream. There, Rose realizes Morpheus's prediction was correct, as 𝐒𝐤𝐤𝐬𝐬 had developed an alternate dream realm outside the dreaming, and kept Jed within it. In this world, the shape-shifting 𝐒𝐤𝐤𝐬𝐬 looks and acts as Jed's mother, allowing him to live out his fantasies as a superhero. Thanks to her powers, Rose reunites with her brother in his dream, and asks about his location in the real world. Agitated, Jed doesn't give a specific address, but discloses the name of his foster parents right before waking up. As the dream ends, Morpheus transforms 𝐒𝐤𝐤𝐬𝐬 to her original form and returns her to the dreaming. When Jed finally wakes up, he screams Rose's name, upsetting Barnaby. The abusive father loosens his belt and moves toward the cellar door to whip Jed. However, he's interrupted by the sound of his doorbell and goes on to check who's there. The mystery visitor turns out to be the Corinthian, with the nightmare brutally murdering Barnaby and Clarice. After hiding their corpses, the Corinthian finds Jed and deceives the preteen into thinking Rose sent him. Trusting the nightmare, Jed blindly follows the Corinthian and drives him out of town. Back in the dreaming, 𝐒𝐤𝐢 is arraigned before Morpheus and narrates all that happened after she left his kingdom. The nightmare explains she only created an alternate realm to help Jed and give him a means of escape from his abusive childhood. Having cleared things up, 𝐒𝐤𝐢 expresses she'd no longer like to be a nightmare, but instead be a dream. As her creator, Morpheus rejects her request and punishes her for showing no remorse for leaving the dreaming. He then sends 𝐒𝐤𝐢 to a prison-like realm known as the Darkness and sentences her to remain there for 1,000 years. After 𝐒𝐤𝐢 disappears, Lucien expresses her disapproval of Morpheus's decision, as she believes dreams and nightmares should be able to choose their own roles, as they deem fit. Despite her sound logic, the Lord of Dreams doesn't see reason and maintains his creations must remain as he originally designed. Back in the Airbnb, Rose finally wakes up and uses Jed's foster guardian's names to find his address. She rushes to inform Lyta of her findings, but decides to leave the house alone upon discovering her friend is still sleeping. Meanwhile, in the dream world, Lyta fantasizes about spending time with her deceased husband and is pregnant with his child. She wakes up moments later and is shocked to discover the pregnancy from the dream has been transferred to the real world, as she notices a baby bump in her belly. While Lyta admires her bump, Rose arrives at Jed's foster home and is horrified to discover a crime scene, with investigators taking Barnaby and Clarice's corpses out of the premises. Upon inquiring, a disturbed Rose discovers Jed is missing and worries about her brother's well-being.
You